Feels like I've been falling for a week. Wait a second. Smells like rushed content. Unnecessary delays. Loose ends. Oh god, I'm in a part 2 video! Okay, we're really doing this. Hi, I'm Blade of Spades, solo dungeon expert, and the only thing dwindling more than my view count is my sanity. But I'm assuming you already knew that, given that this is the sequel to the Sundered Doctrine solo flawless experience, and also the fact that only 7 people watch my videos. You see, in the last video, I not only went over the totally perfect, not scuffed at all solo flawless hunter strat, but also completed 2 more solo flawless runs on the other 2 classes. But apparently, showing people how to solo flawless this dungeon on all 3 classes isn't enough content, because that's not what the people want to see. They want to see something crazy like Solo Master Roll with a Nintendo Wiimote. So you know what? Fine. You want to see a Solo Master completion? I'll do it. I'll do Solo Flawless on Master. You know, I don't even know why I care. I've done this 3 times already. I'll just go in with my combination blow build and have this done in a couple hours. Okay, lesson 1. Things hurt now. As it turns out, the difficulty that kneecaps your power to 20 levels below everything else makes things hurt. A lot. Remember the subjugators? Yeah, the big guys I have to kill to advance anywhere in the dungeon? Looking back on my normal run, I was usually able to face tank whatever they threw at me and just kill them faster than they could kill me. But now on Master, the interaction becomes I get shotgun blasted and die instantly. So that's great. But in all honesty, it's still not too big of a deal. Luckily, my build is still pretty good at ad clear even at this difficulty. So as long as nothing surprises me, this should still be a very easy, that's a champion. Okay, this was not part of the plan. I did not bring anything to deal with them. Why is there even an ogre here? And I'm dead. Lesson 2. There's also champions. Because in Bungie's eternal pursuit to convince me that champions are fun and interesting and definitely not a mistaken game design that we will never recover from, they decided that each encounter deserves champions. And boy, do I sure love enemies that force you to bring specific weapons and mods just to take care of them. And before you say it, I know you don't exactly have to run champion mods. Ability keywords can stun and deal with them just as fine, but you also don't exactly have to be a smartass. And guess where we both are now. I can't exactly ignore them either because they're almost always posted near my objective or need to be killed to progress, so I either deal with them or get blasted straight to the restart button. Now this isn't exactly a new thing. I mean, they warn you about champions on the start screen, so I really shouldn't be surprised. But what they usually do is they just take an enemy already in the encounter and change it into a champion. But if you look at all the enemies in this encounter, you'll notice none of these have a champion counterpart. So I feel like it's just a little crazy to throw in a random unstoppable ogre. Why is it an unstoppable ogre?
Because.
Where does it spawn?
Somewhere.
What causes it to respawn?
Yes.
I genuinely don't know why there are ogres here. It's not related to any mechanics. It's not replacing any other enemies. I'm just pretty sure Bungie couldn't figure out where to put the champion in this encounter, so they just threw it in a random room and hoped for the best. And if it were just the champion, I wouldn't even be complaining. But it's the fact that it's specifically placed next to a subjugator, letting the 2 of them hit the hardest wombo combo of the century. Listen, I'm fine with dealing with champions in most content. It makes me think about the encounters more. You can usually rely on your teammates to stun them if you can't, and sometimes it makes me use a weapon or 2 I haven't pulled out in a while. But as a solo player, walking into a room only to realize there's a champion sitting in the center waiting to send your ass to the Shadow Realm isn't exactly my idea of fun. All of which leads me to lesson 3. Destiny is actually a stealth game. Since a hunter has about the same constitution as a level 1 wizard with osteoporosis, I'm gonna have to turn to the only crutch Bungie left us with. Say it with me, everyone. Invisibility. Invis is the only way I'm gonna make it through these encounters. It's how I get in, it's how I get out, it's how I'll do encounter mechanics, it's how I hide from my friends on Steam. For every second I'm not invisible, I essentially spin a roulette wheel where the grand prize is absolute annihilation. Now that literally everything is a threat, I had to adjust my playstyle. Instead of my usual gung-ho slamming my face into the problem like my inner Titan dictates, I have to play more cautiously, using my invis to sneak around enemies and only exiting when I know I can get a kill. It's a good thing I played all that Spy in TF2. Now normally people run Stylish Executioner to make pretty much any kill proc invisibility, but I think that aspect is too good, and I don't like it. So instead, my build uses the Assassin's Cowl Exotic perk on my class item, which lets me get invisibility off of melee kills. Which, yeah, makes things a little harder since I'll always have to get into melee range just to disengage from a fight, but who needs a gun when I got these two guns right here? Oh, right, I don't have biceps, or arms, for that matter. And as a plus, instead of Stylish Executioner, I can run Threaded Spectre because, well, it's a free decoy that distracts enemies. There's no downside to a free decoy. So after replacing my shotgun for a fusion rifle to deal with the random unstoppable, I head back in. Now completing this encounter took a little more brain power than I'm generally used to, which is to say any amount of brain power. When you're dealing with enemies that can absolutely delete you at any moment, you really don't have time to be stupid. So this is about the most action you're getting. You're the one who wanted to see a master completion. I don't know what you expected. By my 5th attempt, I finally managed to clear the first encounter in about 20 minutes, which is just a bit longer than my normal run, but I was really focused on surviving and only making moves when I knew it was safe. I'm sure the other encounters won't take absurdly long times to complete compared to their normal counterparts. And going into second encounter, I feel pretty confident. I mean, with how easy it was in my other run, all I have to do is keep up the rhythm of starting instant damage phases and then I'm going to dive. Alright, lesson 4. The Zoetic lock set is kinda hard now. Apparently when they say enemies have increased aggro, that actually translates to everything in the room having a 6th sense for blasting you into oblivion. And with the ad density in this room, one wrong move and I get magically polymorphed into a corpse. Alone, that's not too much of a problem, but then you have to factor in the ticking time bomb on the top of the screen. Here's a little fun dungeon fact for you all. If you don't immediately start damage during the first cycle, you are guaranteed to have Hive show up on one of the starting wheels, spawning 2 boss level ogres. Which might as well just put a giant prompt on my screen that says run dead, because trying to do anything with them around is like trying to cut through a block of tungsten with a butter knife. This encounter is pretty much the perfect example of just how different trying to do this on Master is from a regular run. I couldn't just run in, kill everything, and just hope for the best. So instead, I went in with a 3-step plan. Step 1, be fast. Every time this lock set progression meter resets, the clock starts and I have 60 seconds to ensure kill was inputted on the rightmost wheel, build a super, and be ready for damage. And even if I wasn't ready for damage, I still needed to make sure kill was inputted, because I needed to keep resetting the boss to avoid ogres from spawning. Because if I haven't made it clear enough, ogres equal... Step 2, get rid of all the Grim. Listen, I'd rather this room have like 6 more barrier knights than deal with these flying, screeching turds. With how many ads are constantly spawning in, a Grimstun is the equivalent of a giant neon sign that says kill me. Even if it meant ignoring bigger targets, I had to make sure no Grim were left to stop my momentum. And step 3?
Survive.
I have never gotten more stressed out in a single encounter in my entire life. At one point, I somehow missed a cycle and ogres ended up spawning halfway through the encounter. So I had to spend the next 5 minutes trying to deal with the ogres, regain control of the room, and do DPS, forcing me to burn 2 full supers just to keep the run alive. And remember, I still had to worry about doing the actual mechanics, so, you know, more couldn't spawn. But miraculously, despite the several times the run should have ended, I managed to pull through and whittle the boss's health bit by bit. But even then, this boss took me 17 damage phases, 17 cycles of going back and forth the entire room. 30 straight, uninterrupted minutes of constant combat and racing against the clock. But through perseverance, sheer force of will, and probably just a little bit of insanity, I managed to defeat the Zoetic lock set on attempt 7. Now, by the time I go through all the extra champions they added on the last traversal section, I've pretty much already set up my expectations. Given how badly the past 2 encounters ended up, I fully expected to die immediately in the last encounter, forcing me to do all this over again. But then, I didn't. In fact, I was doing really well. The only new things I had to worry about are the supercharged subjugators and the new champions, with most of the knights becoming barriers and the trademark random unstoppable ogre. But given the smaller structure of all the rooms and the higher ad density, I can almost always set up a one-shot kill by dodging twice around a target to cause a freeze, and then set up for a liar's handshake counterpunch using a random ad as a punching bag. And unlike the last encounter, I can really take my time with this. There's nothing forcing me to complete the mechanics faster, so I can just sit around and keep killing ads to regenerate my health. So while I get into a couple dicey situations, I'm usually able to find an enemy nearby to get invisibility, regain my bearings, and go back in. So if the mechanics aren't the problem, it must be the boss. boss, right? Well, the boss does take nearly half the damage I would normally deal, but my overall strategy of spamming Queensbreaker is still the safest and most effective way to deal with this boss. It might take double the amount of phases, but I really didn't have any other options. And for being my first time in this boss room on Master, I was in the zone. Weaving in and out of combat, taking care of any enemies with just a couple melees, I was probably playing the best Destiny in my entire career. I know that's not saying much given that my entire build revolves around spamming the melee button, but you just have to remember, basically one wrong move at this difficulty meant a full restart. Just entering a room was already risky, but despite all the challenges the dungeon threw at me, I managed to survive the onslaught of one-shotting enemies and chunk the boss's health down. And after a long 2-hour run, I can proudly say that in only 7 attempts, I, Blade of Spades, have... What? Lesson 5. This game is bullshit. Here, I'm gonna play that clip for you again, and you tell me, how did I die? Go on, I'll give you a second. Did you guess a random husk explosion tracked and teleported to a nearby surface and dealt damage to the frozen subjugator, causing it to shatter? But as the damage was caused by an enemy, it counts as the enemy's shatter despite being my own freeze, causing me to spontaneously combust to my own ability? Oh, you didn't guess that. Probably because that entire series of events sounds fucking stupid. Up until this point, I pretty much understand how I died each time and use that knowledge to improve the next run. I died to an unstoppable champion? Well, I guess I'll bring something to stun unstoppables. A grim stun gets me killed? Well, that won't happen again if I start targeting them. So here's my question. What exactly am I supposed to take away from this? Freeze bad? Don't kill husks? Just don't? And look at the health bar, that's only like a fourth left. I probably only needed 2 more phases and I'd be done. But no, instead I'm gonna have to run even more attempts because something I had no idea could even happen blew me up in a single frame. I had a lot of momentum in those past few attempts. I really felt like I was making progress with each run, all of which immediately came crashing down after that experience. Every attempt after this point was just sad. Weavers perfectly tracking me, having bullets phase through solid matter just to hit me, and just generally getting blown up in one shot. I couldn't for the life of me get past first encounter for a while. On one attempt, I couldn't even get the first encounter puzzle correct, and I had to learn the hard way how to spawn tormentors in this encounter. Even the servers were against me, because the moment I finally broke past first encounter after multiple failed attempts, I immediately got error coded, which was really just the best thing that could have happened at that very exact moment. At this point, I was tired of repeating the same encounters over and over again. I had been in this solo dungeon longer than anyone should be, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I knew I could do a solo flawless run. I just had to keep trying. And before you say it, no, it's not an addiction. I just had the continuous urge to keep doing the same thing at the detriment to my own health, which took over a part of my life. I could stop whenever I wanted to, but why would I? I just needed one good run, and then I could make a super cool video about doing solo flawless on Master, and it would be great. So I kept going. Despite all the stupid deaths and all the late 2 a.m. resets, I just needed one good run. Run number 25. I don't know what it was about this run that felt so different, but all I knew is that I was going through these encounters quicker than I ever did before. I blitzed through first, got through second without a single ogre spawning, and prepared to face Karev one last time. If there's one thing I learned after dying 24 times in this dungeon, is that final encounter is probably the easiest out of all of them, and most of the trouble is just getting here. So now that I was back in my element, I was going through this boss way faster than I did before. It wasn't long before I was right back to where I left the boss last time. 2 more phases stood between me and finally finishing this stupid run. And this time, no stupid self-shatter crap was gonna stop me from getting my solo flawless. All I needed to do was avoid any unexpected, what the fuck are you doing? Karev? Karev, no! Karev, stop! No! Okay, maybe I can still save it. I just have to... Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we're still on lesson 5. We're gonna take a little pause here because I just want to make sure everyone here understands this situation as clearly as possible. I input the code to start damage, and only at that particular moment does Karev decide to dash immediately towards my decoys, somehow landing in the exact perfect spot to get in my way. I try to jump over it to get to my damage spot before the room goes up in flames. And then, for some fucking reason, Karev decides to hit their AoE stomp on my decoys, which apparently has enough vertical range to suspend me, who was above all of this, which stalls me just long enough to get me killed by the burning mechanic. There's no downside to a free decoy. Yeah, I lied. Listen, I get that standing near a target increases your chances of being shot, but the fact that the boss waited around the corner and then only decided to interact with my decoys after I started the mechanic was so infuriating that I had to spend the next 5 minutes just contemplating my place in the universe. But you know what? Fine. I will just simply restart the run, do the entire first encounter, traverse the dungeon, spend another 30 minutes on second encounter, and then that is actually 1 health. How the hell did I manage to get this boss to a singular? Okay, it's fine. I just have to make it to another damage phase. Just let me get invisibility to, okay, I guess I'm not meleeing that enemy. I'll just go over here and, oh, okay, so now you don't want to start magnet punching everything. Fucking sure, whatever. Attempt number 27. Speedrun first encounter. Traverse the obstacle course. Open the door to second. Do another 14 phases of the Zoetic lock set. And now, finally, I am on track to beat, are you kidding me? Again! What's the point of the damn decoy if you're just gonna use AoE melee attacks and kill me anyway? Why even give the ability if it just gets you? Doesn't matter. Doesn't fucking matter. I'm just gonna have to restart and do it all over again. You know what? No, I'm not gonna reset this run. I've been playing this one dungeon for about a week, and all I've really done is stare at the same bosses, repeat the same mechanics, and use the same dumb strategies. In fact, why do people even do this? There's nothing actually interesting about this. It's the same as the normal run, but longer and even more boring, and at the end of the day, you get nothing. That's the kicker. All this effort, it's all pointless. You don't get anything for a solo flawless master run because the game doesn't even recognize this as an accomplishment. No emblem, no achievement, no golden sticker to put on the fridge, nothing. Even Dungeon Report, you know, the website specifically designed to show people your efforts in dungeons, doesn't even have a text box for doing solo flawless on master. It doesn't even recognize solo master in the first place. And while we're on the topic, flawless is stupid anyways. I played through the entire dungeon on the hardest difficulty alone, and then something completely unexpected and out of my control happened, and I died instantly. And I'm supposed to spend another 2 hours doing it all over again just so another completely unexpected and out of control thing causes me to die again? So you know what? Lesson 6. I don't care anymore. That's right, Bungie. You win. I'm just not gonna do solo flawless. It's dumb, I'm tired, I'm bored, and I don't want to. Is the title card wrong now? I don't care. Does this make all the deaths before not matter? I don't care. Does this make me a huge quitter? Read my non-existent lips. I do not care. So I'm just gonna pick up right where I left off, heading to last encounter and facing Karev for the final time. And you know what I did? The same thing I've been doing for this encounter the past 5 times I've been here. Lining up the mirrors, sitting in the damage spot, unloading my reserves, and pretending like this isn't the most mind-numbingly boring experience I've ever played. And I pay so little attention that Karev suspends me midair again and I die instantly. And you know what? Take it. I am getting this clear. I don't care how many deaths it takes. One way or another, I am clearing this stupid dungeon on master. So I grind through this encounter, and after 40 minutes of punching, golden guns, and listening to, I defeat Karev and solo the dungeon on master. Here's the dungeon report if you don't believe me. Just me, no one else. And that's how I learned to solo the dungeon on master, okay? Are you happy? Is this the content you click to see? Because that's all you're getting. If you really want to see a flawless run, go watch someone who's willing to spend the time grinding through this stupid dungeon, because I refuse to spend another moment in this godforsaken torture experiment to entertain you sick fuck! Listen, I don't know why I decided to give it one more attempt, but I did. Originally, I only started this for a one-off bit, something random to throw in at the end of a video about soloing Sundered Doctrine. But it turns out there's a lot more to soloing on the hardest difficulty than I thought. I've always wondered, why do people watch solo master content anyway? It's not like it's something people will just casually do in their free time, and most people probably wouldn't even think about trying. But now that I've gone through and tried it for myself, I've gained a new appreciation for it. The quick decisions you have to make in the heat of the moment, the mental battle of surviving each phase and clawing your way to victory. A lot goes into making a run like this happen that you wouldn't even think about. And maybe it was never about the completion, but about the journey. Maybe there's no reward at the end of the tunnel, no fancy emblem, no cool achievement, and judging by the view count of this video, no clout. But maybe that's okay. I'm not gonna pretend like this is a story about never giving up or trying to follow fads to get views. I learned how to solo Sundered Doctrine on Master because I wanted to. And also I was just really bored. And maybe it took me longer than it should have. Maybe if I had just taken my time, I would have done this first try and this video would have never existed. But you know what? I went into a dungeon in the hardest difficulty alone. And now, I can proudly say, I, latest Spades, learned how to solo Sundered Doctrine on Master in 27 attempts. And in 28, I learned how to do it flawless. How's that for a solo dungeon video? If you stuck around to this point, thanks for watching. I know I'm about 4 months late to the Sundered Doctrine hype, but I still hope you enjoyed watching my suffering anyway. My original plan was to put this video out about a month after the dungeon came out, but things kept coming up and I kept pushing this back more and more. But better late than never, right? So if you like watching me try to beg for attention in an unforgiving world, why don't you hit that like and subscribe button? The dopamine from watching a number go up might just be enough to get me off my lazy ass. In fact, I'll even cut you a deal. If you can get this and the last video to, let's call it 100 likes each, I'll do this on the other two classes. Given how irrelevant the dungeon is now, I don't really see this happening, but if you manage to pull it off, I'll be impressed. And also, I'll hate you. Anyway, Edge of Fate's just on the horizon, and it's gonna take a bit to get used to all the new systems. But don't worry, I'll be back with videos soon. Eventually. Now, if you'll excuse me... Yeah, I bet you thought you were done with me, huh? Get over here! Come on then, bring it! Is that all you got?